Hello, Connie. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great, Sonia. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Tell me about your business, Jack's Global Consulting.
Well, Jack's Global Consulting is my attempt at trying to help brands develop the kind of strategies I want as a consumer.
Okay.
Totally selfish. But living in London, I noticed that many of the multicultural strategies, which we're so used to in the US, seem to stop at the water's edge. So
Hmm.
companies that had great strategies in the US, when it got to London, even though it's one of the most diverse cities in the world, especially with beauty products and personal care products, everything was beige,
Okay.
to the point where even I had to, I'd have to go to the States to get suntan lotion because they only had the ones that left you like really white when you put them on your skin.
Right.
So stuff like that. So that it really was kind of born out of my frustration. And the longer that I lived here, and the more that it was clear that the city was changing, yet the brands were not responding at all.
Right. Right.
And so there was just this huge, you know, every time I went to the States, people were like, "Can you bring back dot 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 dot?" That's not available. To the point even where when Lupita became Lancome's spokesperson,
Uh-huh.
they ran the ads with Lupita, the Lancome ads in the magazines here, and then when people went into the stores, they were like, "Oh no, that's in the U.S."
Oh, no, that's no good. That's
Yeah,
no
no,
good
it's
at
no
all.
good.
So,
No, it's no good.
what would you say is the problem that you saw for the people you serve? And I'm curious as a part of that, you are able to clearly see that it was a problem, but did the brands that you were working with understand that it was a problem?
Well, part of the problem, obviously, is that many of the people working at the brands
Mm-hmm.
were not diverse. We're not color, and we're not even from diverse. I mean, the white Anglo-Saxon British were not even of diverse economic backgrounds. So you
Okay.
often had people from the same social groups, same universities. So a very small group of people making decisions about the wider UK, and probably in the world that they lived in they certainly knew some great people who were Asian or Nigerian, but they weren't really kind of taking in how much London had changed.
Okay.
Um, Give you an example. I mean, they just started the census, doing the census in '91,
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, I think the UK was 3% non-white.
Okay.
Um, in 2001, I believe it was 9%, and now it's 14%.
Yeah.
So that's a tripling and a doubling in per decade. And that doesn't even really count because I think one of the problems that they have is counting mixed race because there's so much mixing.
Right.
So this is happening and people aren't really looking at it. And I did talk to one senior executive at a retailer, and they were like, "Well, we know we need to do something, but it's expensive, and we're not sure the cost benefit is there yet, and we'll sort of wait till we have to."
Oh, okay.
so,
Got it.
so
Got it.
Yeah, got it. So, after a while, you start seeing the number, and particularly before Brexit and the pound weakened, the number of people who were literally like shopping in New York and, making business trips and staying an extra day in order to be able to have access to all the great brands and all the great products that were available for people of color in the U.S. That's just huge amounts of money being left on the table that I
Absolutely.
just felt like it was time to try to do it. And even the frustration I had when I was the general manager for Europe for Fashion Fair and trying to get retailers to buy the full line and really give the brand the respect that it deserved, given how wide the customer base was. They always
Right.
sort of wanted to put Fashion Fair in the black section, when in fact customers were. I mean, we had when I was there, we had ladies coming from Kuwait and Oman and Saudi and Nigeria and South Africa and everywhere, Turkey, to buy the brand. And so I think that it was frustrating, and I think it really was all of it was born out of my frustration,
Got it.
my own personal frustration.
No, what made you decide? Because there are a lot of consumers who are frustrated with businesses. I've been there, and it's one thing to be frustrated and want there to be a change, and it's another thing to actually say, I'm going to do something about it. So, what made you decide that you were going to be the one to solve this problem?
Well, I think there were two things. Obviously, I was a consumer, but I was also in the industry. So I was seeing the shortcomings at a level that probably the average consumer didn't. And I was also seeing the money. And I knew the one thing I know, no matter whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, the money, if it's the money thing to do, it'll probably get done, which is sad. And luckily, I met a few people from my tribe. I met an amazing woman who was who is still there at Estee Lauder Companies, who was doing what they had begun to call cultural relevancy, which is trying to figure out how to adapt to their sort of global strategy to local context.
Right.
And so we became friends. We started talking, and we were on a panel together actually initially. And some other people like that who I began to meet, and they were, and even she said to me, we're doing a decent job. She's Asian. She said we're doing a decent job with the Asian consumer, but she said I feel like we've made absolutely no inroads, and I haven't been able to make the case in the way that I'd like to for really building a deep investment strategy in the British Black community. And so she brought me on to do that, and the GM, who sadly just went to New York, who I loved for the division, was very much, he said, no, we're lacking and we need to do it. And he really was an action guy. When can you start? So that really kind of helped me jumpstart it. I had, and there was also the feeling that I wanted a little bit more control over my life than I was having running a brand.
Okay.
It's just, you're slave to Christmas, you're slave to Easter, Mother's Day.
Right.
You're constantly, thinking about, thinking 3 or 4 months ahead, and it's very demanding. And my mother is back in the States. She's going to be 80 in September. My sister has not been as well as I would have liked. She's in LA with her family, and it was just, the thing of really, missing Christmases and missing things. I thought I need to find a way to do more of what I want, but also to have the flexibility to spend more time with my family.
Absolutely.
Because time is going by, and we could take things for granted. And that Christmas you don't go to visit your family, you can't get that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad that entrepreneurship
So
has provided that for you.
Yeah. So the combination of sort of my frustration, I guess my ability to see that there was real interest, but the people within the companies needed someone to help build a case for them, and they didn't know where to start. And then also, sort of my desire to live my life differently. So I think that's the combination gave me was the catalyst for me saying, okay, step out and really do it.
One other question on this before we transition to your experiences as an entrepreneur. It's one thing, like you said, whenever the companies know they have a problem, but they're like, okay, we'll get to it whenever we have to. And it's another thing where it's like, we know we have a we're not sure we have a problem. How did you get them to start to see it? Was it all about making the business case in terms of how this was impacting their bottom line, or the money and the opportunity that they're leaving on the table? How did you get them to see that, yes, this is a problem and we need to fix it? Or was it really just a matter of finding persons who believed that there was a problem and then going from there?
Well, it's probably a combination. I mean, it's interesting because there are people I pitched to a year and a half ago when I was first forming, who were like, no, it's not a tipping point yet. Well, who have now called me back.
Okay.
And then there are people like Estee Lauder who sort of pride themselves on, they spend a huge amount of money on research and trying to understand, what they're doing. I mean, they've made, huge investments in the shade ranges and in the products that they have. Obviously, they own so many brands as well. That helps. But they were recognizing that they weren't getting the uptake. People were not coming to, it wasn't like you build it and they will come.
Right.
People still were not seeing them. Many Black women and other people of color were just not seeing them as a brand that would cater to them. And so I think there's a combination of brands who knew it. Yes, we definitely need to be there. And what do we, and we're working to get there, and we just need to find the right resources. Others who were like, more and more data was coming out, census data, reports on this, reports on that, where they were seeing and as well, if they were multinationals from the U.S., a lot of them are suddenly getting, the diversity people coming over and saying, well, why aren't you doing this and why aren't
Right.
you doing that from the U.S.? So I think, it's a combination. It was good timing. I think it's one of the things I found throughout life. When you make up your mind you want to do something, to make a change, I think the universe then rolls out opportunity for you to do it.
Very good. Very good.
And so I think there was a time, when my contract was up for renewal for the third year at Fashion Fair. I thought, I love this brand. It was originally supposed to only be a 6-month assignment to help them until they look for a permanent person. And I just was having so much fun. I just really thought I need to get back to this entrepreneurial dream that I've been having for
Right.
4 or 5 years. And I stayed one more year, and it was really good. I'm really glad I did, because so a lot of the relationships that have been really helpful to me now I formed then, and I also was able to develop a bigger platform for myself because we began to roll out more, creative and new strategies. But I think once I, made that decision, opportunities came up, and then the more I talked to people and the more people I met, sort of finding my tribe, the more I recognized I was on to something.
Got it.
And it was just a matter of just, sticking with it and being very, very careful with money
Right.
while I explored it.
Totally understand that. So what would you say was the biggest barrier in mindset that you experienced once you became a full-time entrepreneur that limited your success, your thinking in some way? And how did you overcome it?
I think particularly with women, it was the biggest barrier. I think it's just thinking too small, not really thinking of, sort of infinite possibility. I remember when Oprah Winfrey did that show on your wildest dreams, and people wrote in, and she, I guess, picked people randomly or whatever, or the stories that touched them the most, and they made those dreams come true for the people. And I remember at the end of the series, she said what had really amazed her was how small people's wildest dreams were.
Wow.
And I was thinking, because pretty much I had been an interim chief executive, business advisor for probably 7 or 8 years, helping, So I take a role for a year, maternity leave, whatever, work really hard, and then take a couple weeks off, and then go do another one. And it was fine. I made as much money as I was making. I had more flexibility, whatever. But and I was satisfied with that. And then, as I was talking about this idea, as I talked to people, particularly some people I know, some friends and advisors, one of my investors in my company who's in tech, they're like, you're onto something really big here, and you need to like raise your sights. And I was really, and I think he was the first person to really say, everybody is struggling with this. The planet is brown and beige and a little bit white. And more of those places where it's brown and beige are coming into their own economically. And there's just this huge scope for what you're doing. And you just really need to stop just trying to, do a couple of assignments here and there. And that was
Right.
wonderful. And then I had a great coach who I still have. I still work with her. And she really helped me go from what he said, like you need to be thinking 3 to 5 years down the line, you need to be thinking bigger. And she helped me think about how do you actually operationalize it? How do you get there? What infrastructure do you need in order to be able to do all that? Um, Accounting firm, accounting software, calendar support, assistant, flexible people with flexible working who can do some of the analytics. So, because what winds up happening oftentimes, I think, particularly for women entrepreneurs, you want to do it all yourself. And you need to think about if I were at a company and I were hiring, would I hire someone with that skill set to do spreadsheets? I would not hire a Harvard MBA to do spreadsheets. So we need to think. So she helped me think about that.
Right.
What things? Where do you add the most value, and where can you can do that, and where do you need to bring in help?
Yeah.
And then also really, really deep work on valuing myself properly, because I think that's a big issue. I mean, as we just saw with the BBC, I don't know if you saw the report about the BBC had to release the salaries of people who made more than £150,000 a year.
Okay.
and the highest paid woman made 500,000 pounds a year,
Mm-hmm.
and the highest paid man made 2.2 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
right, right, right. And when you and obviously a lot of the women are very mad. The men are like putting their head down, like. um, but there was, as they interviewed many of the women, you could hear women say, "Well, I mean, I thought I was paid okay, and it was enough." And in one case, one of the women was interviewed by Christiane Amanpour, and she's been with the BBC 30 years. She's one of the most successful radio shows, but it's about women's programming, and she
Mm-hmm.
didn't even make the list. She didn't even make enough to make the list.
Wow.
Um, and so when Christiane was asking her question, she was like, "Well, not so much for me, but for the women coming by." And Christiane was like, "Yes, for you, like yes, for you.
Absolutely.
You need to right." And so I think that that's a real, when we look at pay gaps, I mean, obviously we know there's a lot of systemic stuff, but a lot of it has to do with how we value ourselves and how we present ourselves and who we choose to sell our services to. And we need
Absolutely.
to be a lot more discerning. We need to make sure we're interviewing the people that are interviewing us,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure they see our value. Because, we'll take a job and then try to convince people that we're all that, who are sort of on the fence, when you want people who see it immediately and
Absolutely.
are like your cheerleaders, like, "Oh my God, I can't, I mean, we want you so badly." And so we did a lot of work on that, and we still work, because every now and then something that's really, I might be, a brand or a particular product I'm really excited about might come along, and they're like, "Well, we'd like to do success fee or whatever," and I'm kind of tempted, and my coach is like, "No, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
stop. Let's think through this. What's your time worth? What happens if there's no success in
Right.
their view?" So that was probably the best work that I did, and continue to do. And I think that for any entrepreneur, I say be sure and have someone who helps you think through the many opportunities that come to you, some of which may be, there may be times when it makes sense to cut your fee because you get something else, but you need to really be thinking, because everybody wants to take, thinks they can take advantage,
Right.
especially the bigger companies, and
Right.
pay you in 60 days or 90 days or 120 days. But yet, some of the vendors that they work with that they really value, they'll pay something in advance. If they really want you, you make that a condition
Right.
of doing it, they'll do it. But you need to learn how to be able to, and not be nasty, and not be, I think that's the other thing that, sometimes we'll go to the other extreme of, either do this or whatever, and get
Right.
really angry and take it that way. But just to be firm, to be confident, and I think those are the things that are really helping me, and I can really see the difference now.
Very good. Now, I know that you are someone who values relationships quite a bit. You are quite connected in London, and you mentioned, some of your connections within the industry, and that's kind of helped you find your tribe and get established in your business. How do you cultivate and maintain all these relationships? Because they take a lot of time and a lot of energy. So, what is your approach to doing that in a way that one just helps you have a good network, but also in a way that helps you advance your business?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yes, I have a great network, and I'm so grateful for it. I'd say that probably over the last 20 years, most of the professional and other great opportunities I've had have almost always come through my network. I can't think of the last time I actually just, got some opportunity and came through, some recruiting process. I guess for me, and it's a little bit more difficult because obviously a lot of my, college and graduate school network is in the United States. So I do try. Obviously, social media is wonderful. LinkedIn, I strongly recommend that everyone, do a great LinkedIn page, and really stay with that. Because the nice thing about LinkedIn is most people will update it every now and then when they move, and it's a way to, when people's email addresses change, and telephones numbers change, and job descriptions change, job titles change, that you can keep up with people. And then like I swear this year I'm going to send a real Christmas card, but I do try to keep up with birthdays. So that's Facebook. Try to keep up with my friends' birthdays. And I just try to check in with people. Usually, I got in the habit when I was in university of calling home on Sunday. You just call your parents, call, whatever. And it's just kind of a habit I've stuck with. So I still, although I talk to my mother now probably 3 or 4 times a week, but I still call every Sunday. I call them on, and there obviously used to be a longer list. Lots of people have left this world, grandparents and that kind of thing. But I've kept that habit up. So what I now do is, in place of the people that I used to call, the people that I don't have to call anymore, I will try to call, a friend, or, reach out on email, just say, hey, was thinking about you, 5 minutes. Obviously don't have the time for the long catch-up calls anymore, but right. I think Skype helps. But, just trying to touch base with people. I find if I think about someone twice, I try to email them or call them.
Right.
And it's little stuff like that. Sending a note when something happens, or just even like say on LinkedIn, when you see someone's been promoted, congrats, sounds like a great job, keep me posted, let me know if there's anything I can do.
Right.
And I think probably the biggest thing about maintaining the network is a lot of people network to network. And they only want people in their network who they know that they're of some value. And I'm more like, I want just like people in my tribe, people who love life and who believe in social justice. And although obviously, I have people of different political. I have like sort of the whole political spectrum in my network, but people who have a basic feeling about certain things that are non-negotiable for me. And I just think that's it's important to just there are people who have helped me and stuff who I had no idea when I met them, I just liked them, that they would ever be of any sort of value to me professionally. Right, but have turned out, because you never know where people are going to wind up. And also, when I can, I try to think about what can I do for you. If there's some way I can help someone, if there's someone that I've met that I think, wow, this is be a great contact for so and so. I connect people all the time by email. Hey, just met this person. They're doing blah 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 blah, and I thought you guys would get along like a house on fire. Connect. So that I think when people know when I do call and ask for something or need some help with something, that they're happy to do it, because I'm not one of those, and those people that call you and you can put your, you turn your watch and say, let's see how long before we get to what they really want. Right. And within 5 minutes, it's like, yeah, well, good, glad to know everything is going well. But what I was calling about, and then you'll never until that. And I try not to be one of those people.
Got it. That's good. What would you say are your 3 keys to success?
Well, let me see when I get there. I definitely think any success I've had has been the network and the support of the network. Being able, their friends, when I had jobs or positions or problem people I was working with or situations I wasn't sure about, people I could call and say, oh my God, keep me from like going postal and winding up on the news but before I kill this person, and help me see another side, talk it through, some options on how to deal with it. I think a certain amount of optimism, no matter what is in your way at the particular time, which I think, definitely stems from my faith. I constantly, some non-negotiables around prayer, meditation, affirmation, and make sure I take care of me first. I'm trying to, it's a struggle though, because, I particularly, I think as women, I'm a firstborn daughter, we're just sort of natural, meet the expectations of other people, helping, supporting, taking care of everybody. And so I have to fight against type, but trying to make sure that I take care of what I need to take care of. And I think, in terms of me, because obviously if I give out, I can't be much good to anybody.
Absolutely. And what can we expect to see from you in the future?
Well, I'm really looking at trying to figure out how to develop some better consumer insight data
Mm-hmm.
on people of color outside the United States, and also on trying to get more of the larger companies, particularly like Google and the data aggregators, to think about black people and brown people as a whole. So you'll have information on black Americans, and then here you'll have information on black people of Caribbean descent and black people of African descent, and in Africa. Yeah. But, there are a lot of commonalities. Like all of us need lotion or we'll turn ashy,
Right.
no matter where we are on the globe.
Right.
Right, right.
Right.
And right, right. Okay. So these are things, the way the data right now is set up, everything is here. We got an African data set, and we got a Black American data set, and we really need,
A collective,
more
an aggregate.
holistic look.
Right.
Yeah. And that's something that, obviously that I'm really looking at, and I'm really trying to figure out a way to develop that. And the same thing, you look at, the South Asian diaspora, who, same thing, people who are all over the planet and share some commonalities. For example, Asian women have a particular issue with thinning hair.
Mm.
Even though it's very thick and lustrous in their youth, they tend to have a disproportionate number of women who begin to shed just huge amounts of hair. So there's lots of things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which are which are universal to the people and the cultural heritage, that I think are being missed, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to do it and to monetize it.
Got it. Totally understand that.
Before someone else does.
And where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm setting up a website. It's not ready yet. Hopefully by September, because all of Europe is on holiday now. You can't really nail down anyone. But yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. So I find that I'm not hard to find.
Good.
From what I'm told from people.
And I'll have all the information in the show notes so people can get to you. So before I let you go,
Sure.
I do have one last question, just to dig inside your mind a little bit more, and that's to deliver a line.
Hope there's something left in there.
I'm sure there is. There's lots of good stuff. Deliver a line from a movie that speaks to you and explain why you chose that one.
Oh, that's easy. I'm big. It's the pictures that got small. And that's a line from Sunset Boulevard,
Okay.
where Gloria Swanson's character, Norma Desmond, first meets Bill Holden.
Okay.
The young writer winds up living with her, and they get involved. And he stumbles into her house. He's trying to avoid getting his car repossessed. He drives in her driveway and then stumbles into her house. And he sees her, and he sees all the pictures. I mean, it's this amazing, fabulous mansion. And he's like, "Oh my God, Norma, you used to be big." And she says, "No, I'm still big. It's the pictures that got small." And I loved, for that time, the movie was made in 1950, I think. A woman who at that point was 50, which now, we think of 50-year-old women doing amazing things, 60, 70, 80-year-old women doing amazing things. But she was basically seen by Hollywood as washed up. Mm-hmm. And the bravado with which she, hey, no, I am still as fabulous as ever. It's the small-minded people who, so it's not me. Now, we later find out as the movie goes on that she's delusional, and sadly, she didn't really believe that in the way that she should have.
Okay.
But I think I've always loved, that initial feeling that you got, like, no, I know exactly who I am.
Right. I love that. And it goes back to what you were saying before about the mindset barriers and knowing your worth. And she just had it, like she said it immediately. And I think if more of us were more confident in knowing our worth and our value and what we offer to the world, then, we would all be better off.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think particularly with women, because, with our digitized, totally interconnected world now, it's really the emphasis on looks and youth and some beauty standard is so dehumanizing to particularly young girls growing up. And so I think it's really, really important that we help girls and, really see their value. Boys too, obviously, but girls particularly, to really see their value outside of what they look like in their body and their physicality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Connie, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your experiences and your wisdom with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, Sonia. It has been. You said it would be painless, and you were right.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.